What's up, everybody? Just a quick intro before we get into the poker. My name is Aaron, and this is footage of me playing the World Series of Poker Circuit Championship online with live commentary. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this, and I've always wanted to try it. So the presentation is raw. I just set up my iPad in front of my laptop, but the poker analysis is solid. So if you're into strategy and talking poker and that kind of thing, you should enjoy. One quick thing, the very first hand I was still fiddling with how to make it look good on the iPad. The brightness is a bit off, but every hand after that looks normal and regular. So I had to leave the first hand in there because it's my favorite hand and the best played hand, I think. But yeah, enjoy. And if you have any opinions or comments or anything, feel free to let me know. And yeah, enjoy. Oh, nines. Okay, pocket nines. Sorry again, all the jank, but you know, we're living, we're learning. Gonna open that. We get re-raised. This deep, there's no reason to 4-bet here. We can call and play this hand pretty well post-flop. We don't flop a set, which is always annoying. Devastating. He's betting third pot. We can't fold just now. If we hit a 9, it's a really clean card for us. We're not gonna fold to 1-bet. We're gonna call, reevaluate. A jack is not only is it a good card because it keeps him from barreling. Like, we have a lot of jacks, so if he has overpairs, he's very unlikely to bet this card because we can check raise him on a jack. So he does that, and now we can block bet. Just gonna bet about a 6th pot. This lets us realize our equity. It keeps him from barreling a much bigger amount. Like, if he has king, queen, ace, queen, he might bet 3,000-4,000 and we're in a tough spot. So we're just gonna block bet. He raises us. It's so this is the situation you get in sometimes. Sometimes calling sucks, folding sucks, and so they just try and raise. I know this person is good enough to raise a king here, but I also know that this looks pretty weak. It's 3,000. We're getting a really good price. I mean, like, yeah, if he's good enough, I'm good enough to do this with a jack, to play this line with a jack. Does he know that? Probably. I don't know if a king would raise here, honestly. It might. Like, he's good enough to do it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think there's a good chance that I have the best hand and he just doesn't want to fold and he doesn't want to call, so he's raising. So we're just going to pay it off. Queen 10, all right, yeah. So, I mean, I've done this a lot. Like, I've used the block bet a lot, so this isn't, like, surprising to me at this point, you know. Pocket jacks. This is so weird playing this from, like, an angle, like looking at the screen from a diagonal. Obviously we're playing this unless it goes like raise, re-raise, re-raise. Folds to us, we're just gonna do our standard open because we're deep stacked. 5-5-5. Pollux calls from the small blind, which is interesting. Feels like a king-queen connector type hand. The big blind calls. So we obviously have a huge advantage on this board. The problem is they have more sevens, significantly more sevens, so they can attack us pretty good. So we're just going to make a small bet, try and fold out their absolute trash, you know, something like queen 3, you know, that has equity versus us. Makes it harder for them to play back at us when they do have a 7. If we bet big, like 1,000, they can just boom 3,000-4,000, and now we're in an impossible spot where we hate to call, but we hate to. And here comes Pollux raising. So, you know, hands like 8-7 definitely are the type of hands that I think would call. They also would 3-bet sometimes. We can't fold to a player like this. He could also just be raising a 10, just trying to get me off of a ace high, king high hand, but we're not thrilled, but we're not bad either. Irrelevant turn for the most part. Let's see, it has pocket fives or something. Very likely we're just going to call down. This is a good enough player to bluff, good enough player to do all the things. So I mean, jacks is just not going to be a fold very likely. If he overbets the river, it's going to get a little interesting. Still going to call. So I mean, flush draws didn't get there, nothing gets there. If he bets, it's a small bet, so we just have to pay off a 7 here. Getting this price with this hand, I mean, we just can't fold. He could just be value owning himself with like ace-10. That's what we're hoping. No point in raising. We open ourselves up to a re-raise if he has a 7. So easy just call here. And 8-7 suited, there it is. So I mean, not great, obviously, but could have been a lot worse. This guy, center fielder limps. I respect. This isn't trashy enough to raise. This is playable enough in these blind versus blind situations. He's very capable of limp re-raising. So we're just going to take a flop and play post flop in position. Flop a pair. I doubt we're going to be as conservative as a poker joker was versus us. We're going to do our 3-7-7, just a number I like, not a mathematical reason. Calls, safe turn. So is this strong enough to go for 3 streets? Probably. Getting re-raise sucks, but I think we're just gonna try and go for some value. I'm not gonna bet too big. Don't really wanna be able to have him put a ton of pressure on us with a big raise. Calls. A jack is not a great card, because now if we get re-raised, we're in an impossible spot. A jack or a forest is most likely. It sucks to bet fold. So I said, kind of funny, I said I wasn't going to be as conservative, but I think I'm just going to check this. Just getting re-raised by a capable player, it's just, I bet 1,000, 1,200 or whatever, and all of a sudden he makes it 5,000. It's just like, bleh, like, because he's capable of bluffing, so I have to pay it off. So we're just going to show him respect and not put ourselves in this spot and just check. 10. So yeah, like I said, very capable of limp re-raising with strong hands and weak hands. So I mean, just when spots like that, you really want to use your positional advantage and your post flop. I'm not going to say I have a post flop edge on somebody like that, but I can hang. I can hang. Blinds are up and off-suited ace in the big blind. Still deep. Another very highly situational spot. So the off-suited ace, again, this is you can make an argument either way. We're gonna keep things small and simple. Bad backdoor flush draw, bad backdoor straight draw. He has the overpairs, can have the big queens. I got the small queens. Checks, so we have the straight flush draw. When people check back like that, they have a hard time defending against the overbet leads. So that's what we're gonna do. We now have range advantage. We're gonna overbet this pretty sizably and just get a lot of marginal hands to fold. If he's protecting his hand with like queens and with big pairs, then this isn't gonna work. But we have the straight flush draw as backup and an ace overcard. But this should work a lot in the time bank, so clearly was unsure what to make of that, but that for me has been a very effective play, like more effective than it should be. I've seen some high rollers do that. It's just a really hard thing to balance and protect against when you check back. Usually you're doing that for like pot control with like medium strength hands, and then you face a giant overbet and all of a sudden you're just like, well, fuck. So, if he's checking the hand like pocket jacks there, pocket tens, or like an ace king or a ace jack or whatever, and all of a sudden you get overbet into, you're just like, and that type of board, I can have straights, flushes, sets, 2 pairs type things, and then not only are you calling that, but you're incredibly, I don't want to say likely, but it's certainly possible you can face another huge bet on the river. So it's like, do you really want to just put in this amount of for a small pot and then have to deal with something on the river. So that's why I like that play. People have seen it now, so you always have to make some kind of adjustment. You know, like oh yeah, this guy's capable of stuff like that. So now we have to make sure that we do that with strong hands as well as our weak hands and bluffs, and not be careful not to overdo it. 'Cause, people can pretty easily set a trap for you, and that's the thing with overbets is they can get expensive. When you're wrong and when people are trapping you. These type of players, anything could mean anything, so you have to give them a little bit of respect in all these spots. If nobody calls, we'll be defending this, even if like a few people call. Probably this is good enough with the price we're getting. Yeah, three-handed versus capable players. Just gonna get on in there. This is actually a relatively interesting spot to lead. You know what? Let's get a little saucy. Let's just go for the lead, see what happens. Gotta lead a little bit. Nah. not a great spot to lead, actually. We do have more 8s and 9s and whatever, and we can put the bigger hands in precarious spots, but it's also not gonna accomplish what I want it to accomplish a ton. It's not gonna get any big hands to fold. This is interesting with that call. I'm leaning towards a check raise. I think it's just too hard to play as just a call. So we're gonna get some clarity on the hand. Re-raise. Like, we have way more 8s than anybody else, so they're not just gonna automatically give us credit for an 8. That's not what I'm saying, but it's just easier to play. Like, see, now that he folds, it's just much easier to play heads up. We've taken control of the hand. The fact that he just called, what does that mean? Just called him and then just called me. Feels like either a bigger 9 or like a Jack 10, 7-6 type hand. I think we're just gonna check. We don't want to get raised. Raised is just gross. We're hoping this guy just wants to get to showdown. Maybe like a 10-9 type hand would be awesome. 9's full of 8s. So now we're pretty much just in check call mode. We don't want to. Getting bet and getting raised just sucks. Very likely to have a 9 and just be chopping. So we're just gonna check and call most bets. Obviously, if he shoves, it's bleh. But if he bets anything pot or under, we're pretty much forced to call here. If he has quads, good for him. You did it. If you called with ace-8 suited or 8-7 suited or something. Yeah, that bet is just an easy call. If you have quads, good for you. If you have fucking pocket aces and are trapping, good for you. Holy shit. All right, so that's a thing. Just whenever somebody traps you with aces like that, you just take them, don't give them to the dealer, and just get them for yourself. So, that's obviously worth noting. Didn't lose too much. Able to... That was an interesting hand. I like that hand. That was sexy. All right, so this guy raises. We got to get on to the next hand. Center fielder thinking about doing something. Because if this guy limped, he's isolating the limp. So now he's thinking. So now I'm thinking if he's isolating this guy because he's isolating the weak limp, maybe they won't give me credit for a hand. Ha 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 ha. So we're gonna do the old 1-1-1-1-1 with aces. Time bank. Sandbag a little bit and make him sweat. He's scratching his balls. He's like, oh no, don't do it, don't do it. And boom. Kaboom. We're giving him a good price, but that's okay. If he has kings and jams, that would obviously be sweet. I think he's very likely to just fold, but it's very likely he was making a play off of this guy isolating this guy. He's tempted for the price and position. That's what these bet sizes do. He's like, oh, I can outplay this fucker. Okay, here we go. Jack 7-7, so we're scared of jacks and we're scared of like 8-7 suited, but this is a super, super dry board. So, if he has a 7 or he has pocket jacks, good for him. We're not going to overthink this too much. We're going to do the Freudian bet, even though we can't really have a ton of sevens. But we're just going to bet super small. Put him in a really tough position with like kings and queens. Make him feel like he has to float. So, I mean, we're really just hoping for kings and queens here. Do we just jam now or go for the river jam? I think we just get it in now. Could have thought that about it a little more. I mean, I could have bet like 12,000 and then jammed. I don't know. Either way, take it down. If he's folding kings and queens there, then jamming is bad. I don't think you can fold kings. So I could have bet like 12,000 and set up an even smaller river jam. Not like a ton I'm protecting from, really. Like a king or a queen kind of suck, just because it gives them a set. It's interesting. How often am I really bluffing there? A 5-bet, bet small, jam turn. Maybe he does fold kings or queens there. Maybe that jam was a mistake. I'm open to that. Queens probably has to fold. I mean, jacks, tens made a set. You're chopping with queens. You lose to kings and queens. I mean, am I doing that with ace king? Am I 5-bet jamming? I mean, I guess it's possible, but probably not. Because I mean, he called a 4-bet. Yeah, maybe that was a mistake jamming there. But as Bob Ross says, you know, we just, there's no, what is it? There's no mistakes, just happy little coincidences or whatever. Open button 3-bets. This is a reasonable 4-bet hand. We've been doing that a fair bit. Yeah, I like it. I like 4-betting better than folding and calling, so put his stack at risk when we have a big hand. A button 3-bet range is going to be wider than most. He obviously can have the big hands, and if he shoves or re-raises, we're just done with the hand. But sometimes they just give us credit and we take it down. You know, if he is folding kings and queens, then I mean, shoving ace king there suddenly becomes like a pretty good play. But I just don't know if he thinks I'm that aggressive. I think, again, this is playable, no real. If this was like trash, like 7 deuce off, I'd be more likely to raise to just take it down pre-flop. But we're gonna play ball with these guys. So we flopped a gutter, not a great gutter. This connects with a lot of hands that limp. I mean, I don't think we're gonna get a ton of folds. So even though we don't have showdown value, I think we're gonna stay pretty balanced and check this board at a pretty high frequency. So even with small hands like this here. Delayed c-bet, or not c-bet, the delayed bet I think is a little more reputable. I think it makes a little more sense. He's got to be thinking, not necessarily like on the same level, like he could be above me, but he's got to recognize these type of these boards and whatever. We're gonna put some pressure on him. He's a good player. We're gonna overbet here. Rep the 10, the check back for pot control. Would a 10 check back? I mean, I know I would at some frequency, but yeah, let's go for it. What's the worst that could happen? Interesting hand. It's the kind of thing, even if you get called, like the way I always kind of phrase it, it's part of the advertising budget. You know, you don't get tilted and be like, oh, I suck, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, they see that I'm clearly capable of bluffing in spots like this, so then we try and do the same thing when we have our value hands, and hopefully they pay us off. Gonna open this. It's by no means like drastically loose, like as an open, but 2 overcards, not a great backdoor flush draw. More likely to have a deuce in the big blind than in the small blind. Like I guess he could have ace deuce, but even that would probably 3-bet. So we're just gonna throw our bet in there and just hope to take it down a significant portion of the time, which does not happen. The 7 comes, which is not a great card. Not even just because like, oh, 7 comes, he has a 7. It's just our overpairs are going to not want to get re-raised by a 7, as we're not repping a 7. So I mean, we just really would be checking a lot of time here. So you have to really be careful with the story you're telling. Like even if we're saying we have a big pair, a big pair wouldn't bet on this card very likely. We're hoping to just check and he has some kind of flush draw in our ace. So much for winning at Showdown. So now we're scared of like the pairs that just call to like semi, pocket 3s, pocket 4s. Hero calling becomes a lot less advantageous on this type of board. Before we could beat like missed flush draws. We have a diamond, which isn't great. 24 to win 8,900. I mean, so we're calling for, so it's not to win 8,900. We're calling for a chop. So we're calling to win half the pot. I think pocket pairs can pretty easily value bet here, and I think they're very likely to be in his range. So we're just, if you have the flush draw and you got us off the chop, good for you. Queen 10 suited, under the gun raise. At these stack depths, it becomes more appropriate to 3-bet these kind of things, but getting 4-bet sucks. We're just gonna, just call, forget what I said. This is word of the day. This is precarious for sure. A lot of marginal spots like this where he's going to be barreling, so we have to tread somewhat cautiously. Getting a good price here, over 3 to 1. So I mean, we're never folding a pair to this size, but we're anticipating heavy action on the turn and river. So the flush draw comes in. We now have a pair and a straight draw. If he checks, this is the type of hand to bluff. Even versus a bet, I mean, what is he? So I mean, flushes, sure. This is interesting. All 3 options, the Doug Polk method, feel appropriate here. I could see arguments for raising, calling, and just giving up. I mean, it's not. I mean, he can, so many hands he can have. I mean, just getting the price. We're gonna call and see what happens. If it was a bigger bet, I think I would just fold. Can I get a better hand, like an ace jack to fold? Like versus how much showdown do I have? Would he bet that hand though? On the turn, maybe. This is so close between firing like a 5K bet and just checking and taking the showdown value. If he has queen jack makes some sense, right? If he has like queen jack, race jack, I'm gonna be a little butthurt, but okay, 7. So I mean, that was gonna fold anyway. I mean, I guess we have a little more showdown value than we thought. He had the heart, so I guess double barreling there makes some sense. He does have the range advantage, which is a little mitigated by the 3 hearts coming, but he can have the flushes too. Blinds are up. Not, I could get tricky, but then, the 10 comes and he has 9-8, and then things just start to get a little messy. You want to, as a general rule, build pots with your big hands. Yeah, man, I keep saying it's okay to fold in these spots. I mean, 10-8's a little too strong, I think, but getting the price, but just. All right, this is it. We're gonna lead. We're gonna play the leading game. This board smashes us way more than any of those other guys. If he doesn't have a big pocket pair, then he's gonna have to fold a lot. Yeah, lead, baby, the lead game. That's the next evolution of poker is dynamic lead strategies. So pretty much it's as simple as we have all the straights, not all the two pairs, but more two pairs like this, the suited combos and the sets. They're much more unlikely to, and they have the big pairs, but they have all the ace highs and king highs and broadways and stuff that have to fold. So not something you want to do recklessly, and 10-8 might not have been a great candidate for it, but you know, we're trying, we're learning, we're firing. We did technically have overs in a backdoor straight draw, you know, if it comes 5-7 or whatever, but that's not on its own reason enough to do something like that. Yeah, it worked out. Can't be results oriented. Can't be like, oh, it works, I'm gonna start doing that every time. You know, you want to, like I said, dynamic raising strategies, dynamic leading strategies, not just leading strategies, not just lead. 5-7 off in the big blind. Just gonna take our odds. Too playable to 3-bet, I think, at a high frequency. We like to play post flop. All right, so this is much more of a check raise type thing. Like unless he has a jack or an overpair, I mean, a lot of hands from the button. We're just gonna get the fold with a check raise here. We have the gutter to the nuts. We have the backdoor flush draw. So we're just fucking getting in there. Just a lot he has to fold. Then again, a lot he can call with too. So the 3, so we're not getting an overpair to fold. We're very unlikely to get a jack to fold. Yeah, I'm just not feeling it, honestly. This, you could very easily double barrel it, but now, even if we hit the 6, it's not the nuts anymore. So here's the thing. Betting and getting raised fucking sucks because it's incredibly likely he's trapping with jacks or 4s. Betting huge, I mean. I think we're going to balance our block betting range and just bet really small here. That prevents him usually from shoving. And it's also possibly could induce a raise. And it also gets paid by like a marginal hand. Like if he has like a 4 or something, we could get some value. Whereas if we bet big, he'd fold. So earlier, you know, like you have to be capable of doing this with bluffs, with all kinds of things. So we're just going to block bet. Get some value. If he had a jack, yeah, we could have gotten more, obviously, but you got to look at the bigger picture too. He had aces. So that's a spot where, I mean, yes, I could have bet pot. I could have bet bigger, gotten more. But compared to everything, not just in his range, but compared to everything I want to do, like imagine if I have a 4 there or a jack, a weak jack, and I don't want to bet huge. I don't want to check and face a big bet. Like you have to think about your whole range and the dynamic of it. The fact that I'm capable of having a straight there with my block bet makes it so that with hands like aces, he just has to call. Like if I had a jack there and I bet 3-7-7-7 on the river and he just calls, I mean that's a huge win for me. If I check, he's gonna bet, and I'm in a spot where I either have to pay him off in a huge bet, or if he's bluffing with say like a missed straight draw or missed flush draw or something, then I'm gonna fold a jack. I mean, like the block bet does so much more. Like it saves you from such precarious spots like that. So even though I could be results oriented and be like, oh, I could have gotten so much more. I could have bet pot and he would have called and I'd be blah blah blah. The bigger picture, and this isn't just a rationalization. The bigger picture, you can't just say I'm balanced in a spot and then have it be true. Like you actually have to mean it. Like the fact that I'm capable of having a strong hand there with a block bet like that just makes it in the long run so much tougher to play against. So if he raises, it gets actually very interesting, especially with his stack depth, because if I re-raise, he has a decentish, he's still got 50 bigs, never mind, it's not a great stack to shove with yet. Ignore. ignored what I said. If he raised, I probably would have 3-bet with this hand. It just plays better as a 3-bet than as a call. All right. They want a piece. Everybody wants a piece of the man. I mean, a lot going on here. Very dynamic draw heavy board, but just checking and letting 3 players and not having any clarity on the hand whatsoever. So we're just gonna do our 3-7-7-7 and reevaluate. It's perfectly reasonable to be beat here a reasonable percentage of the time. A lot of things can change, so we're not married to this hand. Like a lot of these flats are on the interesting side, but I think this is better than checking. 2 calls. Worst card in the deck, I think, other than a spade, like the 9 of spades or something. I mean, like the ace high flush draws have a pair now. We do block queen jack, but 3 players, this, I just, not ideal. Pollock snap checks. Doesn't even think about it. Queen. Interesting. Wow. Fuck, that's an interesting card. So I don't want to check, and that's the thing. If they check, like, it sucks to have to pay off an ace, and their bluffs very easily get through. So this is just that utility of the block bet. Like, the fact that we're capable of having an ace here, I think they have to respect it. And if we get the showdown for only 4,777, I think that's a win. It's just really hard for them to raise here. Not impossible, but if you have ace 9 here, I don't know if they call with ace 9. Ace 9 of spades. Are you raising here? Pollock says, fuck you and your fucking logic. So he snap checked the turn. What does that mean? 15,000. So we're getting almost 3-1. I mean, is he raising? What? Just flatted. Like ace 10 makes ace 10 makes the most sense, I think, out of everything. Miss Spades makes some. Does Miss Spades make sense or no? Miss Spades would probably bluff. This isn't the same as before with the 9s. Like the ace is a little dynamic. It's a lot more likely that he would raise an ace than that guy raising that king in the first hand. Pollux is clearly capable. He's not repping much else. I mean, my bet looks so weak. Ah, man. 3-1. I have to be good here 1 out of 3 times, right? I mean, I block queen jack. This is like an okay candidate to raise with. I mean, it's pretty much ace 10, right? Ace 10 or... I've gone back and forth a couple times. My instinct was first saying fold. I just think the price. You know what? Sometimes you're wrong, I just, it's too good of a price. It just looks like too weak of a bet. I'm just going to go for it. Ace 10 of spades. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's the one hand that, like, makes sense. My first gut instinct was saying just fold it. I kind of let the math dictate that one, and just the fact that it wasn't the same as the first hand, but by the same token, like, it does look weak to a lot of people. So I think even though I lost that one to the one hand that does make sense, I think there's a lot of other hands in there versus a capable player that can, I think that's going to be a long-term profitable call. It always does suck when you pay somebody off and you run into it, but I think I'm pretty comfortable with that decision as played. It just doesn't look like I have an ace, and he's putting a lot of pressure on a king with all his hands. Suited, it's not a wheel suit. Again, could 4-bet. I'm just gonna stay out of harm's way for now. Calling out of position there is not the greatest. It's so tempting, like especially for less experienced players. Oh, you called out the hand and you still paid it off. Like just because ace 10 is the hand that makes the most sense as played, that doesn't mean that's the only thing that's possible. This is a pretty easy squeeze versus that suspect player and a guy who's probably looking to get with him in position. So we're just gonna raise, expect to take this down a significant portion of the time, and be done with it. So yeah, like just because ace 10 is the most likely hand that makes sense that I lose to, doesn't mean that's the only doesn't mean it's ace 10 and nothing else. Like, doesn't mean that's the only possible explanation for what's going on. It's a little more interesting that he checked that. I guess he just wanted people in there. But yeah, I'm even though my first instinct was saying fold, like it's such a complicated game. Like you can't just base it off of instinct alone, just off of math alone, just off of dynamic alone. Like it's all one big equation. And my instincts have been wrong before. Like I try to trust them if they're strong. My inclination was fold, but there were a lot of good reasons I think to call there. I don't think is eight, like I said, is ace deuce of spades, is ace 9 of spades raising there? Maybe he's good enough to go for that thin value and just he's seen probably that I'm capable of calling down. So the fact that he's seen the play before maybe leans it more towards a fold, but even so, just my bet looks so transparent. So that's why you have to be careful and read into things like that. I don't, getting 3-1 pretty close to it. I just don't think there was enough value that makes sense as played to justify folding there. I think it's too exploitable against a good player to fold there. So nice hand to him. Very interesting hand. All right, so we made it 1-7-7-7 last time, and that's what we're gonna do this time. Some people change their raise sizes by position, under the gun maybe versus button, a little smaller, a little bigger, whatever. I'm not so much in that camp. I don't like to give people a lot of pre-flop information. So versus, not the situation we're looking for versus all these callers. Yeah, we have quote unquote range advantage, but not by a ton. I think we're just done with this one. Could consider a small bet, but even that doesn't make a ton of sense on a dynamic board. I think we're just going to be checking this board a lot. Only be betting with the Now things are different. Now our jacks function as blockers to the nuts and as equity as a double gutter. We can still rep things like aces as a delayed c-bet because this is such a scary board to bet. So yeah, we're gonna fire once it checks around and with the dynamics changing with that card. These guys are both not crazy short, but they're starting to get on the shorter side. Both call, which is interesting. So the only real merit to betting is getting a queen to fold. I don't know if an ace is folding. I could just bomb this shit. I could just go all in. Rep the king jack. I kind of like that, honestly. It's so hard to call with something that isn't like a nutted hand. So we're just putting them all in, hoping they don't have it. And if they do, then F me and the A with a D. It's a good call. I still like the play. I just think it's with that particular hand, with the blocking properties and with as played. You know, sometimes you just run into it. This is why poker is so interesting and fascinating and dynamic. You know, it's so easy to question yourself. It's, you know, when things work, you're a genius. When they don't, you're an idiot, and that's the game. I think if he just has one ace, I think he's folding there, and there's so, you know, that's so much more likely than two pair, especially as played. I mean, you know, good, like I've been saying the whole time, good players can show up with all kinds of hands in all different kinds of spots. So, I mean, it was never 100% to work, but with the hand and the dynamic and the situation, I like the play a lot, honestly. And we're below starting stack. We're still in this thing, you know. He was just at 20-something thousand. Now he's battling back. Like, I'm not going to quit until they rip every single chip from me. If I have one chip left, you know, I'm going to battle. So we're gonna balance our folding range with this one, make an easy fold. Ha ha, you're so fucking funny, Aaron. All right, we love the 49ers, so let's get in there with a nice little 49-49. Got 1 second on the time bank. Jesus, how did that happen? This guy's relatively short at this point. You know, we're getting into that 30-40 big blind range thing. Which matters. Calls, so, you know, these particular spots you kind of just want to either check a lot or do bet small to put pressure on them. If he has a queen, that sucks, but like, I'm not doing this to be nitty or to fold or anything. I'm just, oh no, that's not good, that's not good. 3, 7, 7, 7, go. So we've shown we're capable of bluffing with this guy. I think, you know, if he has a queen, he got me. And, yeah, that's poker, that's life. So we're in the danger zone. We're not out of it, but too nitty to check there. And we're on massive tilt, so we're gonna shove this ace king. Oh my god, we're so tilted. This is a weak hand. This could be anything. No, obviously we're at the stack depth now. Okay, so could be right back in it. Could be out. We will find out shortly. Ooh, the old Tripperooski. So a queen would, red queen would obviously be absolutely wonderful. Ace or a king, a spade is what we're rooting for, obviously. Him betting him off of it, and so very likely to need a queen. And that's all she wrote.